Welcome back to SOLIDWORKS Live. If you feel like we were only recently hanging out together, you're right, we were. For over 25 combined hours during the course of 3 straight days at 3D Experience World, we aim to capture the sights and sounds for a very unique event this year in 2022, held virtually and broadcasted centrally from Dassault Systèmes headquarters in Waltham, Massachusetts. My name is Sean O'Neill. I am your host today for SOLIDWORKS Live. And during this episode, we will get into a lot of what you could see and a lot of what you couldn't see as part of the nature of it being a virtual conference this year at 3D Experience World. But before we do, make sure you treat this as a live event. If you're tuning in Friday, February 25th here, 11 a.m. Eastern, you're live. YouTube is the best place to watch SOLIDWORKS Live. I truly believe that. If you are, watching right now, check out a live chat. Tell us, where you're from. Tell us which version of SOLIDWORKS you're using. Tell us, if you're using XDesign or XShape. Tell us whatever you want, right? Just have a conversation, build community there in the live chat like we always do here on SOLIDWORKS Live. Hey, even if you want, talk about sour cream donuts. You guys seem to like doing that a lot during one of the SOLIDWORKS Live days during 3D Experience World. So whatever it is, again, just build community there in the live chat as we go throughout the show flow. And we have a lot of interesting stuff to get into today. But as we're going over housekeeping items while you're here, if you see that subscribe button and it still says subscribe and not subscribed, click that. Click the subscribe button, click the notification bell. That way you can gain access to notifications for every sort of ensuing live episode, not only for SOLIDWORKS Live, but SOLIDWORKS Live Design, SOLIDWORKS Manufacturing Live, and all the content that we have here at SOLIDWORKS. And we'll talk about some of the upcoming episodes for those streams, as well as SOLIDWORKS Live for the month of March a little bit later on. But once again, thank you guys so much for being here with us today. We're excited to get into this show. As we were saying at the top of this episode is a little bit of a recap on what we did see, accompanied by a lot of what we couldn't see. Regarding the latter, that's answering that question: which were the best attended breakout sessions from 3D Experience World 2022? And we're actually going to hear from the top 5 most popular sessions a little bit later here during the show. But in terms of what we did see during World this year, we saw a lot of familiar hallmarks on display. A great example of this was general session, right? We heard from Dr. Hakeem Aluchier on breaking boundaries for ourselves and others. We heard from Hao Wu from Exovelar on propelling ourselves, quite literally with the human exoskeleton that Hao had on display during general session. And really just so many of you. There's so many members of the community and also the members of the Dassault Systèmes team here that were, just talking about, in particular to you guys, talking about how you use Dassault Systèmes solutions as part of your stories in, making the world a better place and making, lives of your customers and your local communities better. So thank you so much for all that you did during those segments. But we know 3D Experience World, it's always been about more than just general session, right? General session is a huge part of it, but we tried to provide entertainment and education for everyone, no matter what you were looking for over the course of those 3 days that we had together at 3D Experience World 2022. You think the don't miss this demo skits, which were obviously hilarious, but including that sort of special day 3 preview of SOLIDWORKS 2023, Michael and Mark actually got it done. They did the impossible. They actually got the demo done. So that was fantastic to see, right? We had 3 straight days of shop floor programming with Mike Buckley, on site talking about manufacturing, robotics, all sorts of different manufacturing topics, right? Not just the machines running, but business dynamics, the people inside of manufacturing. So we got a great look at that. Again, 30 minutes a day. The great part about the way that we ran 3D Experience World this year, one of the great parts at least, is that you can still go on our YouTube channel here at SOLIDWORKS and tune into pretty much all of the proceedings, right? You can look at day 1, day 2, day 3. If you watched it as it occurred, that's great. If you didn't catch day 2 or didn't catch a good chunk of day 2, you can still visit that and take it in for the first time. So I definitely recommend that. But again, speaking of content, we had 30 plus meetups. If you want to meet others in your space, meet members of the team here, we'll talk about a special meetup that occurred, maybe in that top 5 category we teased a little bit earlier, a little bit later in this episode. The Waltham Walk-ins, where we got to talk to, members of the SOLIDWORKS team and R&D, technical support, community members like Kate Reed. Kate's doing fantastic stuff with biomimicry. And then just that entire slate of SOLIDWORKS Live programming. And I might be a little bit biased there, but we 25 hours, over the course of 3 days, we welcomed over 50 guests this year in helping you amplify your stories in terms of what you're doing with Dassault Systèmes products, in terms of what you're doing in your communities. So it was truly a treat. And we really did try our best, to just bring good vibes and excitement directly to you, no matter where you were tuning in from, no matter your location. And truly World is a time for us as a community to celebrate our greatest accomplishments, together, our greatest accomplishments, the power of what we can do together, and to also take in some breaking news, In general session we're so accustomed, I was a SOLIDWORKS user before I came aboard here on the team, and general session was always that sort of period where you were looking forward to, the latest and greatest news and what's coming out, what's coming down the pipeline, who are the new faces, This year was no different. We heard some familiar faces like Gianpaolo Bassi, GP as we call him here, our friend GP, his new role as the Executive Vice President of 3DEXPERIENCE Works. And we also learned that Manish Kumar is going to be taking over the reins as the new SOLIDWORKS CEO, which we're super excited about. +1 in the chat for Manish. We're going to be checking in with Manish a little bit later in the episode, but before we bring Manish on here, let's take a look at a quick recap at all we got to take in during the conference this year.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to 3DEXPERIENCE World 2022.
We talked to people that were building a flight suit.
SOLIDWORKS Live from 1 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will go to a video feed direct from the shop floor in Charlotte, North Carolina. While we can't be together in person, it is still great to be able to connect with other SOLIDWORKS and 3DEXPERIENCE Works users from around the world. Residents at the 3DEXPERIENCE Lab, who creates biomimetic wearables, 3D printed designs inspired by nature.
Our goal with industrial design is to try to make the project less constrained, make it more collaborative.
And we are together because the magic of virtual worlds is to expand imagination.
I'm very proud to be part of this special virtual event.
In a changing world, everyone designs. Each individual person, from business to institutions, from local communities to cities. And you are at the center of it.
This software is designed to get out of the way of manufacturing and so that you can do what you love, which is machining.
Projects combining art, science, and technology, I feel like mesmerized, like a child.
From what I hear, you are my fellow nerd, so definitely let's nerd out.
When you get your design data up on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, you unlock a world of possibilities for you and your team. You bring everyone together. That's right, together.
Welcome back. That was awesome. It was awesome to see, all that we took in, at least as much as we could show in that duration, right? We mentioned, SOLIDWORKS Live. You could check out all 3 days still on YouTube. But it was awesome to see just a quick recap of some of what we were able to take in. Super exciting stuff. And we're back with Manish Kumar, SOLIDWORKS' new CEO. Manish, how's it going?
It's great. It's great, Dan. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So Manish, we just watched a quick highlight roll of some of the sights and sounds of 3D Experience for All, which again was super exciting. As we show some of the numbers here from the conference, what was your biggest takeaway? Could be anything. Your biggest takeaway that you personally had now that we have some distance from the event.
Actually, the biggest takeaway was I was invited to a specific session. It was the SOLIDWORKS Top 10 session hosted by Bruce. I was able to go to that session and I was able to see the excitement, see the energy with which both John Sweeney and Bruce were able to convey to the broader audience there what are the kind of changes that are coming, and the way it was accepted by everyone. It was absolutely fantastic. I have seen the feedback of that particular session. I was humbled by the reaction.
Yeah, I got the chance to talk to them before they delivered that session. I think it was Tuesday of World. I did one of my Waltham walk-ins, and I just basically dropped in on their offices and sort of asked them about, their feelings heading into it. And yeah, one thing I could tell they were super excited about was that meetup format, right? Where you can discuss. A lot of times, maybe in the past we had that top 10 segment on general session, but there's not a lot of opportunity to interact in that medium. So that top 10 session being a meetup session at World actually made it a bit more special. Looking forward though, right? We have the rest of the year. We've gotten through 3D Experience World 2022. It's sad, it's bittersweet, right? We're still celebrating it though, like we are today. Again, you're SOLIDWORKS' new CEO, and now that we're past the event, what are some of your biggest priorities for the calendar year as you settle into your new role?
If we look at mainstream market is transforming at this point, and that transformation is being brought in by all the pandemic that is still going around us, uncertainties that we still have to face. We still have to go offline, online on a moment's notice. We cannot predict. So the collaboration and connectivity at this point is one of the most critical elements for us. And we have to keep on defining our SOLIDWORKS and all the solutions that we deliver to our users, that they are as collaborative as possible. Now, having said that, if you look at the design itself is becoming more and more complex. And the complexity can be created by either it needing electrical components in it, electronics component in it. There is going to be fluidic components, design and simulation worlds. They're essentially merging together. You used to have a sequential design process where you used to design, then simulate. It's merging. You can no longer afford to design, then simulate, then go back to design and so on. So if we look at the complexity, it is going to grow up even more. And we do realize, or we do need to face the reality that despite products becoming more and more complex, the end user expectation in terms of quality, in terms of production on time, in terms of robustness, it's not going to go away. So our end users are still going to, I should say, not even your end users are still going to expect on delivery on all those fronts. And if I throw on top of that, just delivering functional value is no longer enough, because end user given two choices where one is just meeting the functional needs and the other product is able to meet not only functional need, but it is aesthetically pleasing. Its user experience is nicer. It's ergonomic. Users are going to gravitate towards the other one. So delivering just functional value is no longer enough. You have to think about the end user experience that you want to deliver. So if I have to summarize in one single short line, what is our priority? Our priority is that we are going to help everyone transform not only their products, rather even their businesses, to go from delivering products to delivering experiences in future. That's our priority.
I think it's such a benefit to have you in this role personally, just my own opinion. I mean, because of your, and we talked about it when we were together at World, right? When you were on SolidWorks Live, just your breadth of experience in R&D, right? You bring such a holistic focus. You've worked across all different areas of SolidWorks. You've talked with thousands, if not tens of thousands of customers, right? So this is how you operate. This is what you think about. So I'm really excited for you to have that focus and to lead us here. And one thing I've noticed, Manish, even in just the few weeks that we've had from 3D Experience World up through now on this episode of SolidWorks Live, is that you are so embracing the SolidWorks community. Like just the other day, I logged onto LinkedIn, and I've heard this from others too. It seems like you are constantly Zooming into user group meetings, virtually. I was talking to Matt Clegg, who runs the SolidWorks Champions program, and you were a recent guest speaker on Champions Central Live, which is sort of their private, champions only meetup series. It's just a question, like, do you ever sleep?
Yes, of course I do sleep, but being winter, in fact, right now it's snowing out there. So there are situations when you can't really do anything. And in those situations, why not just go and be in the community that we are all part of? So I feel like if I can spend time, yeah, I do like to spend time there.
Yeah, it's super heartening to see, right? And we've had a front row seat to it, especially over the past couple of years. I know even during your answer to one of my earlier questions, right, about changing the way that we work, changing the way that we operate, during the pre-show when I was talking to the other guests who will reveal in just a moment, the top 5 breakout presenters. Yeah, things have changed, but one of the byproducts of that is that, especially when it gets into community involvement and being able to just jump into a user group meeting whenever, and you can be in a user group meeting in Sudan or in the United Kingdom, or all the way across the United States, maybe in California, right? So I just thought that was super cool. I wanted to thank you for your time, Manish, just in coming on and saying hello and giving us some of your perspective as we head into this new year. Heading into 3D Experience World 2023, we talked about how you're getting into woodworking, right? Mm-hmm. We showed some of your posts in Made in 3D. Are we going to get a breakout from you? Maybe an intro to woodworking on the user agenda?
Maybe not a bad idea.
maybe not a bad idea. Maybe and if we're in person, right? We hope to be, certainly. Maybe even a hands-on workshop. That'd be pretty neat.
If you have not tried, I would say please go and try 3D by me, because that's one thing which we are trying to focus 100% on woodworking. And if you are a woodworker, if you're working with lumber or plywood, what is it that you want to create in the most easy possible way without needing any kind of training? That's the experience we have created. And of course, it's for free. It's never going to be, we are not going to charge money for it. Use it, you'll love it.
We talked a lot about that, right? We talked a lot about 3D by me, and I think it was a lot of people's first time kind of seeing that solution. We talked about Home by Me. We talked about of course Home by Me. We talked about 3D Experience SolidWorks for Makers. So many of these different ways that you can get into using our solutions for different reasons. So I am super excited at how we're just democratizing who can use it and for what. Yeah, it's super cool. But again, thank you, Manish, for stopping by. Really appreciate it. And we will talk soon.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, everyone, in the chat again, +1 for Manish as CEO, just getting us kicked off here with our first post 3D Experience World episode of SolidWorks Live. Long may he reign as CEO. But now the moment that we've all been waiting for, I teased it a little bit earlier when I was saying that there's a lot that you can't see at a virtual conference, right? In terms of, sort of gauging vibe. right? You can walk by if you're in an in-person conference, right? Like we hope 3D Experience World 2023 will be, where you can walk by, a given session room and you can see, oh wow, it's standing room only, or you kind of walk by a conversation and you hear, man, that session was packed. You can't really get that much of a feel for that, a vibe for that, just environmentally speaking, at a virtual conference. But what we wanted to do with this episode was to sort of bring that vibe. As we have some distance here from 3D Experience World, we want to talk all at once, revealing the top 5 breakout sessions. And this is not the slide I intended. There are nerd out pins all over my slide. This is not something I did. But all jokes aside, let's have some fun with this. Let's make this a bit more ceremonious than just revealing them all at once. We're going to actually reveal the top 5 one by one to sort of build the suspense and to give each presenter of these top 5 most popular sessions that special period of shine here on the live stage. Are we ready? Live chat, are we ready? All right, let's go. Here we are. Jeff Niederman, complete tour of configurations, a top 5 session. Jeff, welcome to SOLIDWORKS Live.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Jeff. You've been here for some time here at Dassault Systèmes and SOLIDWORKS. Why don't you just start off with telling us a little bit about your SOLIDWORKS journey through to what you're working on today?
So yeah, I've been at SOLIDWORKS since 2000. It's actually my second job out of school. And I started in tech support. That's where I worked for 12 years. And, I really enjoyed the work, like helping customers, but I wanted to do something different. And I really like working here. So I took a different job, and then I started working in product definition. That was in 2012. So for the last 10 years, I've been working on product definition. Definition is responsible for writing the specifications that the developers work against. And we all specialize a little bit. Myself, I work on administration topics, installation, not parts, assemblies, or drawings, but everything around those topics. Lately, working on 3D Experience SOLIDWORKS, the next generation of products.
It's interesting, Jeff. You said, I think you've been here for over 20 years, right? It's a great sign that you said you like working here. It's never a great sign when you're talking to someone. They're like, yeah, I've been at this place for 20 years and I can't stand it. No, it's great to hear. And even before I joined SOLIDWORKS, I'd certainly seen your name, all over the place as a session presenter and in different areas in technical support. I think I worked with you there on a couple different cases. So it's nice to catch up here. But this particular topic, right? A complete tour of configurations. Like we just said, you've worked here for quite some time. What does it say to you that this topic had some of the most attendees of any topic on the breakout agenda?
Well, I was a little bit surprised that it was as popular as it was. It's not a glamorous topic, but it is something that everybody comes across, and maybe it's a little bit cheating because it's not even parts or assemblies. If you're doing any kind of modeling, configurations are underneath all of it. So parts, assemblies, even drawings. So yeah, I guess it does make sense that people would be interested in it because it's everywhere underneath everything you do. And I said as much in the presentation that it's good to understand how they work because they touch everything.
And how do you begin? One thing when I saw, I was reviewing the top attended sessions, and I believe we featured your session on Breakout TV, which is sort of like a spliced in sort of break level session, like 15 minutes or so that we would kind of intersperse in on SOLIDWORKS Live during those crazy 8-hour stretches. I remember just sitting there thinking, like, how did you begin to dice that up? Like, it's a huge topic. Like you said, it's not quite everything you need to know about parts or everything you need to know about assemblies, but it is a huge topic. It even hits some drawings, right? Like that is such a huge topic. Like, how do you begin to dice it up and build a roadmap for it? And did the session appeal to all users, all skill levels, or just some?
So I actually did the same content. I updated it, but I did a similar presentation last year. So I knew that it was going to be well received. It was received well last year also. I had a story I wanted to tell. There was actually one part about configurations that I just know is not well understood. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, like trying to learn software while you're doing something, because then you have a specific goal in mind and then you go to the help and you figure out how to do it, but you never really understood, like what you were doing.
I know what you mean. So like if you're just in a spot and you're going through the help article and you're sort of just like jotting down the steps and you're just doing the clicks, it's the sort of that feeling of like, I'm not sure why this worked or, why I went this route, but it worked. Okay.
Yeah. Did I do it the best way? Am I going to do it again the same way next time? I don't know. You did your job and then you move on.
Right.
But I think if someone's going to come to World and they're going to sit down and they're going to be a captive audience for 45 minutes or however long, let's give them like some good foundational knowledge that they can build on, so that when they get to their next task, they'll be like, oh, I remember Jeff said something about presentations or configurations. And then when you go to the help, you have like a deeper level of understanding about how you use it. So I had really just one story that I wanted to tell for configurations. And then I kind of built a whole presentation around it. But the thing that I want to share is just that, like, they are a variation on your design, but they all have their own rebuild tree. And, you kind of are expanding the file every time you create a new configuration. And that's something that, like, I don't think people really understand unless I demonstrate in the presentation how you can see the rebuild marks, you can see what's up to date. I show you how the file size grows. So that you can really understand what I call the cost of configurations. And that's the story I want to tell, because I don't think people would really look for that information in the help, even though it's there. So I kind of built a presentation around that. And everything else is, just kind of building up to that. That part is in the middle. So I talk a little bit like broadly about configurations in the beginning, and then I give some examples that I have learned in support and in PD, where people get tripped up on configurations. And that's how I kind of closed it.
Yeah, I mean, that was another question I had, just like how much of that your own personal or professional experience went into selecting the topic and kind of building it out.
So the topic came from, I was working with configurations back on a project for a SOLIDWORKS 2020. And it had to do with why some assemblies take so much longer to open in the new version than it did in the original version. So, people will run a conversion utility to update their files. And it turns out that the biggest reason was because of configurations. And we actually changed, as a result of that research, we actually changed the way we handle inactive configurations when you move up to the next version. But that brought configurations top of mind for me, and I thought it would be a good subject for people to understand. So that was the inspiration for the presentation.
Absolutely. And, just for those of you who are in the live chat today, just as a reminder, you can ask questions. It's okay. You can ask questions in the live chat. If there is a question that you had about configurations, just while we're here with Jeff, feel free to ask. Maybe it's even answered in the presentation, right? And we talked about earlier how, and we'll shout it out throughout the show. You can go to 3DEXPERIENCEWorld.com and you can check out all of the presentations still. You can still register, you can still take in the recorded content, as we go. So we're not just highlighting these today, but you can check out all that Jeff's talking about a little bit later. But again, questions, anything like that in the live chat, we do have the team here at SOLIDWORKS monitoring that. So don't think that we're not engaging with that. Jeff, just another question here. as you are on a pretty big stage here on SolidWorks Live, do you have any advice for anyone who's thinking of potentially presenting at 3D Experience World 2023? They're thinking maybe they've never presented before. They're thinking maybe I have an idea, maybe I have an abstract that I might want to submit when the call for presentations goes live, later on this year in the fall. Any advice?
I think what worked well for me is just having a story to tell. The middle part of my presentation is what I wanted to share. And if you are excited about it, if from working with other people, maybe in user groups, if you're a VAR and you talk to a lot of people, you kind of know what people are curious about or want to learn about. And maybe, myself, like I learned something interesting while I was doing my own experiments and I wanted to share it. So if you have a story to tell, that I think that will translate to a successful presentation, because you're going to be interested in the topic, and that comes through. I actually have to present as part of my job, but it really does work better when I am like engaged and inspired on the topic.
That's so true. That's so true. I even thinking back, at just every role I've had in my career, that's sort of the best way to do it. I think, just sort of glean topic ideas from interactions that you have from your customers, your coworkers, right? Or at user groups. Like I can think of times, like I had one job where I was doing SolidWorks technical support. That was certainly, questions that are asked all the time, right? That is certainly a great way to come up with topic ideas. Or if you're an application engineer, right? That's another great way, if you're talking to customers about, like let's say flow simulation, you keep getting the same question over and over, right? That might be a good topic. Or right, if you're in an industry context, you keep getting the same questions over and over at user groups, or you keep getting the same questions over and over. People keep coming over to your cube or your office, asking you how to do something in, inspection or in Simulia. That is such a great piece of advice, because that's just a treasure trove of different, different topic ideas. And to take it from you, right? You came up with this topic idea that way, and now you're a top 5, most popular session presenter. So yeah, it's such a valuable piece of advice. But Jeff, I wanted to just thank you so much for coming on. And of course, congratulations on this feat. We have a question here from, I believe, Chester. What did you do to the configuration file to make it open faster in the new SolidWorks version?
So what we did, what we were doing was actually discarding what we call an inactive configuration. So in assembly, when it opens up a part, it opens it up maybe in just one of the configurations, but that part could have like 7 or 8 different configurations in it. When the assembly opened up one of the second or third configurations, we used to actually discard it, even if it was totally rebuilt and up to date. That was based on old logic from like 15 years ago. Wow. And so what happens is when the assembly would open that, try to activate that second or third configuration, we'd have to rebuild it all over instead of just recalling it when we already had the data.
I remember that. That was huge. That was a crazy enhancement that year.
It's really helpful. And actually the biggest benefit is for lightweight users, because you couldn't open them lightweight because we trashed all the body data. So once we, preserved it and used it, everything could just open up that much faster.
Yeah, great question and great answer. Just that callback, like just a reminder too, on that topic of what's new and how we improve the software. Each year, when you started to mention that, I quickly kind of beckoned back mentally to that experience of opening up SolidWorks and whatever. I don't even recall exactly which version that change was made in, but being like, wow, this is a huge change. Like this really does. This is super impactful that we've done this. That we're not, like you're saying, we're not just discarding sort of cached configuration data. That's perfectly fine. Can make it load faster. Just because it's the way that we've always done it, like you said, for 15 years prior.
Yeah. The best changes, the best changes are the ones where the user doesn't even have to do anything. You know, you don't need to learn it. Yeah, that's a win.
And that's why we get these questions, right? Because it's like you didn't really have to. You just knew it. So that curiosity was sort of a background thing. I totally agree. Well, Jeff, congratulations once again on being a top 5 breakout session presenter at 3D Experience World 2022. And we hope to see you back on the agenda in 2023.
Well, thanks, Sean. It's a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. Okay, so we just heard from Jeff Niederman. Now we are with another top 5 session presenter at 3D Experience World 2022. One of the most popular sessions this year was Maniacal Modeling Methods 2022, done by Cam Smith. Cam, congratulations. Welcome to SOLIDWORKS Live. How you doing?
Thanks, Sean. Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I get to talk to you guys. Like, you guys are basically superheroes in this context. So it's awesome to catch up with you and just kind of help give you even more limelight than you obviously got a ton, right? You got a ton of it at 3D Experience World with so many people going to your session. Just to start off our conversation, Cam, I know a lot of you in the live chat know Cam, but for those of us who don't, tell us a little bit about your history in the SOLIDWORKS community.
Well, I started like a lot of people. 10 years ago, I was afforded the opportunity at work to switch over to 3D modeling, and I started getting my hands on SOLIDWORKS. There was no budget for me to go learn it anywhere, so I had to try to teach myself, and I reached out to the internet, and the internet showed me the forum, and that saved my life. Seriously, I spent so much time on the forum for years. It was a lifeline of mine, and I actually got to know a lot of the people who I know now. I know them personally now. I was introduced to them through the forum. They were answering all my questions. And in a lot of cases, it was the questions that I was asking now, but someone else had actually asked them a long time ago. So I was able to find them in the history of the forum, and to read all these great answers and posts from, the heavy hitters from the SOLIDWORKS community. And I really got to, not know them personally, but I felt like I did. As soon as I knew that, as soon as I got to meet them in person, there's somebody I was going to continue to know in the future. So that's kind of the way it continued until I got my first opportunity to go to SOLIDWORKS World, and that was where I met Todd Blackshear for the first time in person in LA in 2017, and then was invited up to User Advocacy Day in Waltham. And I got to meet Eric Beatty in person there. And those were 2 of the guys who I had been really looking forward to meeting after, learning their names on the forum. And it's just gone, skyrocketed since then. I started a user group, started, working on Slug Me, or the SOLIDWORKS largest user group meeting ever, with Todd and Eric.
Yeah.
My user group has kind of, blown up, and Slug Me has helped with that, and joined the Swuggen committee. So it's just kind of been ramping up over the years.
Yeah, I think we gave your user group a little bit, I don't know if you caught it, a little bit of a shout out during SOLIDWORKS Live at 3D Experience World, because we had Tracy Wedegg on, and we showed some pictures of Tracy presenting at a user group meeting of yours. That point you made too about just meeting people at World and at these different events, seeing people on the forums. I remember distinctly one 3D Experience World that I went to. I think it was back when we called it SOLIDWORKS World, right? And I'd met Deepak Gupta.
Yes.
And he had answered, and he didn't know this, but like you said, I had seen so many old threads of Deepak's from the SOLIDWORKS API forum, and he had answered so many of my questions. And so I just unprovoked, I saw him in the 3D Experience Playground, then, which was called the Partner Pavilion. And I went up and shook his hand, and I just said, I had to meet you. Like, I had to say hello to you, because you had helped me so much over the years. And I remember he reached out to me, and, Deepak and I have talked many times since then, right? He's a SOLIDWORKS champion. And he said, yeah, I hope to shake your hand again at the next World. And I was like, you want to shake my hand? Like, I want to shake your hand. You're an absolute legend. So those opportunities to meet people that have paid it forward and just helped you in so many ways, whether they were answering your direct question or, you had gone through a search and you'd found, an answer of theirs on a 3D Swim forum or on the old SOLIDWORKS forums, just super special. And with this session though, another big part of World, of course, is the Model Mania Challenge. It's grown in scope. Like we have 3 Model Mania challenges now. We have the classic, right, which has gone on for years and years, still going strong. Of course, you've taken the sort of namesake of the Model Mania Challenge in the title of your own session. What does this session really dig into? Like, are you just modeling every single Model Mania part from history all at once, or do you get into something else?
I would love to do that. That would be an awesome session.
Be a long one, I bet.
But, right.
Probably not very long for you because I know you're super good at modeling, but it just by definition, it has to be a long session.
Well, I have. So you can see there's 23 years of it.
Yeah, right.
23 now. And I've modeled every single one of them probably several times to try to figure out the best, fastest ways to do them. But this session really, it's just a tips and tricks session. Those are always the most popular every year at World. They have the biggest turnout. And what I really wanted to do was create a tips and tricks session that would like intrinsically carry the context that everyone needed to help learn them. Because I've been to so many tips and tricks sessions in the past that I was just like scribbling notes and trying to remember and like, how am I going to implement this later on? And it just, I wanted to like really show it, and in kind of a, in a linear workflow sort of way. And maybe this year, the 45-minute virtual version doesn't show it quite as linear as I would like. In person, I've done it as a 90-minute session, and that was a little bit more kind of flowy. You get to follow it from the looking at the print all the way through the sketching and the changing and doing the simulation and everything. But what I just wanted to be able to show everybody how to actually use tips and tricks instead of just rattling them off. So I just use Model Mania as the context because it has everything I need where I'm showing you how to read a drawing, how to understand the dimensions. If a breakout view tilts the drawing to the side, and that can throw you off when you're, whether you're at work or whether you're at Model Mania, it doesn't matter. To just kind of work through those things and explain the context of Model Mania just really helps.
So what are some examples, like you've done Model Mania a bunch of times. I mean, what are some examples of how, and I think just before even getting to that, like what you said, I think was so foundational to why I think this session, I think we agree. It's like why this session was so popular. People understand intuitively that if I'm going to a maniacal modeling methods session, I'm going to get a lot of tips that could be transferable, could make me more efficient, could build out, my own workflows at work. I'm not always participating in a Model Mania challenge when I'm doing parts or I'm building assemblies, right? But there are so many transferable skills. Like, what are some examples of how you've directly applied Model Mania learned skills on models that you've created or you've changed, just had a hand in?
Yeah, so I mean, initially, as I tell the story in my session, initially I was just trying to get faster for Model Mania because I had this this fake time limit that my boss told me you had to beat in order to compete, and I just I wasn't that fast and I wanted to get faster. But what I noticed over time is I was getting better at my job along the way as I was trying to increase my speed. I was, my day job was seeing the fruit of those labors, and I've been able to use lots and lots of things that I've used or that I've learned in preparation for this over the years. But I think two of the really big ones is that I work for the U.S. Army, and we've got a lot of old parts that have been made a long time ago. And in many cases, the only proof that we have of those parts even existing anymore are really legacy 2D drawings. And we don't have them in 3D anymore, or never did. And so we've got stacks and stacks of these drawings that need to be modeled up and stored for future use. Well, that's step one of Model Mania. Reading a drawing and implementing, turning it into something on your screen. So I've gotten much better at that. That has definitely helped, just turning out piles of drawings into models. But then also, SOLIDWORKS is parametric. And I know a lot of us get taught from the very beginning to make all your changes parametrically. I know that I always kind of blindly parroted that for years. And I think that's still a really good way to do it when you're developing your model for the first time, as you're designing and, you have to make tweaks and changes. You want to go back into the settings, change an end condition, change a dimension, whatever. Do it parametrically. But once you have made that part, once you're going into the revision stage, I think the direct editing tools become really important and really handy there, because you're not obliterating the previous version anymore. When you go in and change a dimension or an end condition, that doesn't get saved. You can't go back in there and really see what you had been or what it had been before, unless you're going back to an old drawing or something, or an old version saved in the vault. But like if I go in and I want to make a revision where I have to move a hole or shift a face or change something, I'll do it with direct editing tools just so that I can go back into that part later on and I can see at the bottom of my feature tree the changes that I've made. And that comes in really handy too. Because before, to me, direct editing, I was just like, that's only useful in Model Mania. That's not true at all. That's not true at all.
Yeah. That was definitely a big takeaway, right? From your presentation, just using, I think you were showing how in a Model Mania part, using delete face, I think you used replace face at some point. And it's interesting because that is a sort of area of commands in SOLIDWORKS that by default, I don't think a lot of users, especially starting out, even know they're there.
Right.
So it was super cool to see that, and also to hear that you're using those productively, not just to sort of cut down your time on a Model Mania part. So just again a testament to check out this session if you're viewing this episode of SOLIDWORKS Live at home, because you still can. You can register at 3DEXPERIENCEWorld.com. You can check out Maniacal Modeling Methods 2022 there. Just great stuff. Before we go, Cam, and thank you so much. Congratulations. I wanted to give you a chance to plug, you talked about Slug Me, the SOLIDWORKS, at least last year, right? The SOLIDWORKS longest user group meeting ever, Slug Me 6. It has a sequel, right? Do you want to speak to the community about that here?
That's right. Slug Me 7, we're already planning it. Actually, we were starting to think about it and plan it before Slug Me 6 was even over. By the way, you mentioned earlier that you did 25 combined hours of YouTube. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Next time, try going 25 hours in one shot. Try that.
That is too crazy.
It was too crazy. And I think that's why we decided not to do that for Slug Me 7. Slug Me 7 is going to be, is still going to be worldwide. But instead of, going kind of linearly, that's a good word, around the globe, we're going to spread out to all 7 continents. So on each continent, we're going to have a build of some sort, because the build was easily one of the most popular sessions in Slug Me 6 when Johnny and Kirby did the magic wheelchair.
That was
Everybody
fantastic.
loved that, and we want more, and we want to spread the love. So we're going to do 7 builds around the world, and we need help. We need a lot of help. So right now, I think you guys have a link that you can post in the chat. This is a link to the volunteer form. We need helpers at any level, whether you're able to do something in person, or whether you just want to help, with logistics, or if you want to design something and 3D print it and mail it or whatever. We don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, but anybody who wants to be involved in any way, please follow that link and sign up. Let us know that you're interested, and we'll get everybody going.
Yeah, so the team running SOLIDWORKS Social here, if you could paste that link in solidworks.com/slugme, it's a really short form, right? And like you said, Cam, by intention, you're just sort of stating your own intention to participate in some way with SlugMe 7. So yeah, definitely check that out. Bookmark that. Probably could even do it now. I think there's like 3 fields just to make yourself.
Oh yeah,
you can just do it right now in another tab.
I raised my hand.
I'm just raising my hand. So absolutely. So SolidWorks.com/SlugMe. You can do that today. Cam, once again, thank you so much for coming on the SolidWorks Live, and congratulations for having a top 5 breakout.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, our next top 5 breakout. This is Mark Russian and Sal Lama with the 3DEXPERIENCE R&D Meetup. Guys, you have the only meetup that was top 5. You also are the only pair that we have today. So from here on forward, it's only single presenters. But how are you guys doing?
Great, Sean. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing great. Really excited to be here, Sean.
Absolutely. What were some of the big questions that you guys received from users during this particular session?
You want to go, Sal?
Well, yeah, I think we heard a couple things. Maybe Mark, you want to speak to this one? We heard drawings. People are asking, when are the cloud apps going to get drawings? So, Mark, do you want to comment more on that?
Yeah, that was a big question. Obviously, we've had model-based definition in the X apps for some time now, but people are really kind of itching and keen to get 2D drawings so they can kind of match how they work today. And actually, last weekend's update, we released the first release of our 2D layout tool. So it was kind of frustrating at the time just to say, oh, it's coming soon, but yeah, they're now there. So that was a good one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool that we could do what we did at World, sort of tease it, and then just a couple weeks later actually deliver it. And it's the first of many releases that will really build out that offering. So that was a good feeling to be able to deliver what people are most critically asking for. The other thing we heard a bit, we talked a lot about innovation, what we're doing in the X apps and things of that nature. And the questions came up, how and do we share the work that we're doing in our X apps with the work that we do in our SolidWorks and 3DEXPERIENCE SolidWorks applications? And the answer is yes, and where appropriate. I cited a couple examples over time. If you think about the glass, the view cube, when you hit the space bar in SolidWorks, the view cube comes up. That's a piece of technology that was born in one and brought over to the other. Same thing with breadcrumbs. When you make a selection, you see the little breadcrumb, hit the D key, and it comes to your cursor. That was developed in one place and shared in the other. So as it makes sense, we certainly do that. It's really great to evolve both, all of our offerings at once.
I remember I first learned that, and I was really heartened by that, right? Because we're taking, like with you guys in R&D, you're taking this sort of bi-directional approach. It's like we're just going to continue to develop both, and I think that is really interesting, and it just makes sense. From your perspective, though, we talked about some of what you were asked, right, during this session, but in R&D, right, the R stands for research. I think we all know that. What is R&D looking to get out of these sorts of sessions, like a meetup about 3DEXPERIENCE and just getting those questions, getting those vibes from users? What are you sort of looking to glean from these sessions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what's interesting, it's easy for us to talk to kind of customers, but it's really interesting to find out kind of some of the barriers that people have. They're kind of on the fence. They're looking at new technology like our X apps, and they've got some kind of questions. They're not quite sure about things. So really interesting to find out what the barriers are, what problems they're facing that they want to overcome with these tools, but also where their bottlenecks are, like outside of what they might consider to be their kind of product development workflow in CAD, and more about the collaboration problems and things like that. So it's a good opportunity to kind of go a bit wider than just the geometry creation in those sessions.
Yeah, I would agree, Mark, that research is probably the second most important thing we do, right? And I think in any business, building the right team is the most important thing you do. But in anything you're designing or in software, for sure, we have to understand our the needs of our customers and our prospects and the community. And so whether it's user group meetings or going to the customer on site when we could in the past and when we hopefully can in the near future, and actually seeing how they work, talking to them about their business, understanding their pains, really, getting to know them, that's huge. So the R in the R&D is critical, and World is a huge opportunity for us to actually have those interactions and really hear what's on people's minds.
Yeah, you mentioned World, right? It used to be called SolidWorks World. You guys have certainly been around for quite a few SolidWorks Worlds, right? You've spent a lot of time at SolidWorks, as have many members of the R&D team that we have here who are working on cloud apps, working on desktop apps, or maybe both in some cases, right? And how they're intertwined and somewhat connected in a lot of aspects. Like, what benefits do you guys feel it gives you to, as you shift some of your focus to the cloud capabilities, just sort of having that SolidWorks like brand cultural knowledge, just having been here for so long?
Yeah, I think for me, it's the innovative kind of spirit that's really ingrained in everybody at SolidWorks. It kind of rubs off on each other. And we're all kind of driven by the same purpose, and that's really to make complex work easy. And that's really what everyone here is striving for. And with the cloud tools, it's kind of an opportunity to approach things differently and look at the original problems that we were trying to solve and kind of discuss, is that the best way to solve it? Is that the easiest way to do it? Because it's often easy to iterate on a problem that was solved a long time ago, but it might be a completely different approach that kind of just cuts through the way it was done before.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Mark. I was thinking about the years we've all spent contributing to this wonderful community and the software products, and having that sort of experience or wisdom, and things we've succeeded in and things where we failed, is a huge asset for all of our teams to actually go and build the X apps. We all have said and said hindsight is 20/20, right? And we have this wonderful opportunity to actually take advantage of hindsight, because when we build these X apps, as Mark said, we have an opportunity to say, what did we do in the past that we don't want to repeat? Where do we want to innovate? It's a huge and wonderful opportunity for us.
Awesome. Well, before we go, guys, I have to ask, what are individually, like, what are your favorite SolidWorks brand apps on the platform? Again, you can only pick one each.
You want to go first, Mark?
Okay, well, yeah, obviously I'm pretty biased. I mean, the machine learning the machine learning powered design assistant is actually in all of the X apps. So it's kind of a cheat answer.
Yeah, cheat.
I guess it doesn't really I really like shiny new things. So X-Define being our latest and greatest new app, it has the 2D layouts in, is maybe one. But I'm going to go with Xmold, because I think designing mold tools is just a very complex task to do. And I think with Xmold, it really embodies what we're trying to do with the X apps. So I'm going to go with Xmold.
That's your official answer. It's locked in. How about you, Sal?
Well, I'll lock in X Design. Call me old fashioned, but it's our core CAD. It's how we build 3D geometry. There's all the other apps do that as well, but in terms of bread and butter, it also holds a fond place in my heart, because it was the first app that we really started in earnest developing, and it is, again, for me, the foundation of what we're doing.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have our next SolidWorks Live episode in March will feature the X apps pretty principally. So definitely look forward to that. We'll talk about the date that's occurring a little bit later in the episode. But for you guys, again, thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations for being the only duo in the top 5 for Breakout presenters, and also the only meetup. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having us.
For sure. All right, so next up we have Ryan Field, a senior application engineer at CATI. Matey, a beginner's guide to advanced mating. Ryan, what's going on?
John, how are you?
I'm good. Congrats, man. Were you surprised at this? Like, were you surprised that this was top 5, or were you fully expecting it?
No, I was pretty surprised. Presented a couple times at 3D Experience World, but yeah, not expecting it to make it to the top 5. There was a lot of great presentations out there, a lot that I saw and learned a lot from. So yeah, pretty surprised to see it up there.
What did using Mates and SOLIDWORKS like look and feel like when you first started using it?
Well, unfortunately, that was a really long time ago, about 20 years. So I think 2001 or 2002. So don't really remember too much what it looked like. I do remember it was, at an internship and actually doing assemblies and creating assembly drawings. But yeah, with all the new enhancements in the last few years, it's, kind of hard to even think about what it was like not having them, because they become, ingrained in your workflow. And you can't even imagine, even probably just 4 or 5 years ago, how much different it was. But, because you're just constantly doing it now.
Yeah, and your presentation, for those of you who haven't watched it yet, it is a super modern look at this. It's a super modern look at Mates and how to utilize all the different menus, all the different options we have in modern SOLIDWORKS. Tell us a little bit about the session for the audience.
Sure. So the title, I Am Matey, right? It's based off a presentation I had done a few years ago, but updated, within the enhancements over the last few years. But since it was for 3D Experience World, I wanted to kind of up my game a little bit, make it a little more creative and entertaining. So, went with the pirate theme because of Mates, right, and Matey. And
sure.
I got 2 young kids, and they're really into dressing up like pirates right now, and making treasure maps and having treasure chests and everything. So that's kind of where that came from. But it's really broken up into a few different sections. Really starting off with just more efficiently, using some of the standard Mates instead of going up into all through menus and stuff like that, but just more efficiently being able to add those Mates, whether it's mate references or smart Mates, or probably my favorite is with the quick Mates toolbar. Then getting into some more of the advanced Mates that maybe people don't know about or know how to use. That was certainly the case with me when I was a user before I was an application engineer years ago. And then even all the ones I talked about in this presentation, those are all right on that quick Mates toolbar now as well, which is really awesome. And then finally, just getting into some of those more innovative mating tools like Mate Controller and Magnetic Mates. Then, sticking with the pirate theme, as you can see there, right? I just made some fun pirate theme models, right? And just to make it a little bit more fun and engaging, I guess. But
I loved how you used the component preview window. Like you did a lot of neat things. Again, just using tools that like we didn't necessarily have in previous versions of SOLIDWORKS. And I used to be an AE. A lot of us have been AEs at different stops in our careers, right? As an AE, like how does it make you feel to introduce these tools to other SOLIDWORKS users?
It feels really good, right? Because as an AE, that's our job, to know all the ins and outs of all of the different features. But as a user, right, it's really your job to get your designs done, right? And not, you don't have the time to go find the most efficient ways possible. And that was certainly the case with me when I was a user for many years, right? It's just, what you know, and you keep chugging along. So, and it's something it made me think of something you mentioned, I think during one of the SOLIDWORKS live sessions, how SOLIDWORKS is like a million simple things, right? So it's, and that's kind of what this is, right? A lot of it is pretty easy, but the key thing is having to know that they're there, right? And how to do it. And it does feel, it feels good to be able to show someone something, even if it's pretty simple, what they didn't know was there, and really can help them in their day-to-day, really make things more efficient.
Absolutely. And this presentation is jam-packed. And I love, again, the theme of it. I love what you did with that. It felt fun. Like that's when you can make this sort of edutainment experience, which is one of my, I think that's actually a word, edutainment. When you can make that, I remember I saw it in print and I looked it up on Google and I was like, oh, wow, this is a real word. Like I'm gonna keep that in my vernacular. But when you can really build that sort of experience for an audience, like it's just a rock star presentation at that point, and you've certainly achieved that. So congratulations. I wanted to ask you before we go, if you had to pick one, what's your absolute favorite Mates enhancement over the past few years?
I think I alluded to it earlier, but definitely everything more and more getting added to the quick Mates toolbar. being able to stay focused right where you are and not going up through menus is huge.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of people, +1 for QuickMates in the chat. Like, I think a lot of people would answer that way. QuickMates, it was such a crazy addition, and then just adding the different mate types just makes it even better and better. But again,
Absolutely.
Ryan, thank you so much for coming on, and congratulations on being a top 5 breakout presenter.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I like that last one. I was looking in the chat and somebody said Ryan's favorite letter of the alphabet is R. So there we go. Those are our viewers. But we're here joined by Craig. Craig, congratulations. Top 20 SOLIDWORKS options you need to know, top 5 breakout. How's it going, man?
Going great. Watching the snow drop in all New England. I know middle of the coast has gotten a bunch too, but it's coming down now.
That's right. You're out in New England, right? You work for Applied CAD Solutions. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your work there.
Well, I work for Applied CAD Solutions, like you said. I've been in the CAD world for about 14 years. My background's electromechanical engineering. I've worked in anything from robotics to snow guards, being up in North New England.
Yeah.
And we implement and manage PDM systems all throughout the world. So it's kind of fun that we get to see how a bunch of different other people do things.
That is cool. That is super cool. Yeah, I used to work, here at SOLIDWORKS, it's great to see, right? We get to see a lot of that. But even, I think I'd worked with you guys several times over the course of my career as a reseller applications engineer for a time. You guys work with tons of different customers. So absolutely. And it's great to link up with you here. With this presentation, again, top 20 SOLIDWORKS options you need to know. How did you prepare for this one? Like, were these just tips that you had randomly picked up over the course of the years in your own work, or did you pick up a lot of these tips or a lot of these options from other people? How did you sort of collate this collective presentation?
Well, so many of the tips I actually talk about in the presentation, we implement in our settings that we send off to our users or our customers. There's more of my favorite settings that I like to do. I've been running this presentation, for approximately 5-ish years, tweaking and adding to it as, SOLIDWORKS comes on, and we get communication from coworkers or customers that go, hey, why is it doing that? Or going along, my long presentation that I actually do at user group meetings has over 50 options that I actually cover. So I only hit the iceberg with this presentation.
That is insane. You talked about it during the presentation, right? I think in one of these clips we show it. It's you. I think you counted about over 540 options, which amounts to, I don't even want to know. I can't calculate how many different combinations one could have.
I was gonna say there's over 540 just checkbox alone, and then we like to
just checkboxes, yeah,
just checkboxes, and we like to joke as PDM admin, multiply that by 3, and then you have PDM.
Absurd.
So each one of those checkboxes are really how your system interacts with you on a day-to-day basis, and people don't understand how critical this section is for your daily use.
Yeah, for sure. As a bit of a teaser, for those of us who haven't seen this session, and we're kind of seeing some clips, so we have some idea of some of your favorites. Just give us 3 options that you absolutely could not live without.
So the one I actually thought was I kind of passed by it going, yeah, it's kind of fun, but I got the most comment about is there's actually a checkbox in the settings that when you open a SOLIDWORKS part, it immediately starts in a sketch. So you don't actually have to go through and go to your plane, select the plane, and start your sketch. And that adds a lot of consistency through companies because everybody's starting now on that front plane. Another one, I really go into a little bit of deep dive of all the performance. So I'm going to give multiple here of all the performance checkbox of working in lightweight or working in large assembly mode. And then my other one, I guess I would talk about is to think about using SOLIDWORKS options outside of the box. We all are not the same style of users.
No way.
So a manager is going to have a different style set up on their SOLIDWORKS than an engineer or dot control. And we talk about when we go into maybe things we should review, that maybe one settings file for the entire company is not the best idea.
Yeah, and I think you and I have seen that, right? Certainly not in every case, but in a lot of cases, companies using the same exact settings file. And it's one of those things where there's always a time and a place, you know, but sometimes there's not. And with presentations like yours, you get such a good look at some of the top options from someone who is living and breathing that all the time.
So one of my best examples is a lot of times you have an engineer that's going to want to open that model and have it completely rendered when they have it open every time. But if you have a senior level manager, they're going to not want to work and have that file rendered. They're going to want to open it, look at it, review it, and then communicate with you and have you make the changes, not them. So why not have that senior manager, when they have an assembly over 5 parts, open up in large assembly mode? You know, so it opens quick and snappy for them. If they're not modeling, they don't need that to open so quickly.
It's such a great point. It just underscores what you're saying, right? That there are different types of users, different types of people who are using SOLIDWORKS for different reasons, right? And it's great now, right? You can, in certain cases, you know, even think about someone who is using it for a total non-design reason, right? You have viewer applications like the eDrawings viewer. If you're on 3DEXPERIENCE, you can use an app like 3D Play, you can mark up. So there's all sorts of reasons, ways why someone might need to access and leverage 3D data. But Craig, thanks again for coming on. I wanted to, just before we go, did you want to shout out your user groups?
Yep. So I actually
because you have more than one, right?
I have more than one. So I actually have been in the Northern Vermont group. I've been running that for almost 12 years now. So up north.
Congrats.
And then myself, Martin Onimus, and Tom Cody, we run the PDM SWUG, which is a fully virtual SWUG for all things PDM nerd. We like to strive ourselves that we probably have a great turnout of SOLIDWORKS employees that attend that meeting. So, you know, if you have a PDM gripe or real big question, there's probably someone in that group that's been there, done that, or could help you with it. So highly suggest you look us up on Meetup.
Absolutely. Well, Craig, thanks so much. Congratulations for being a top 5 breakout presenter, and I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Thank you very much.
For sure. Well, there we have it. Top five breakout presentations. Thank you so much, and congratulations to all 5. There's the slide. No nerd out pins anymore. Congratulations to all of the top 5 of our breakout presenters from 3D Experience World 2022. Mentioned this a couple times throughout the show, but just one more time, you know, you can check out all these presentations by going to 3dexperienceworld.com today. You know, the event itself has concluded. Unfortunately, again, it's a bit bittersweet, but you can still check out all of the recordings, including all of the top 5 attended breakouts, just by going to 3dexperienceworld.com and register there, go to the virtual event platform, and you just look them up. You can just search them, you know, and I definitely recommend it. We mentioned, Brian and I, when we were on SOLIDWORKS Live at 3D Experience World, we said this could be kind of your professional development almost for the entire year, just attending this conference and taking in all of the tips and tricks and, you know, industry know-how that you can access through these breakouts. So again, check that out. I believe we'll have those presentations up on the virtual event platform for about the next 2 months or so. Plan thereafter is to actually port them over to the SOLIDWORKS news and info community on 3D Experience. So the 3D Swim community there, you'll be able to access that content thereafter. So that's sort of the longer life version of that. So this is a great chance as we conclude this episode. If you're looking at the subscribe button, it still says subscribe and not subscribed. You can press on the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You know, that'll ensure that you get access to all of our content throughout the year. And we will be streaming here on SOLIDWORKS live streaming throughout the month of March. We'll hear from Mark and Jeff next on SOLIDWORKS, Mike and Jeff next on SOLIDWORKS Manufacturing Live. So we'll hear from Mike Buckley. We'll have Jeff on. Jeff was actually on SOLIDWORKS Live during 3D Experience World, if you remember. Was also on General Session. We'll be talking all about life as a manufacturer in the automotive industry. And Jeff has generations worth of experience, Jeff and his family at his company. So definitely want to check that out from all different sorts of angles. We'll be back with SOLIDWORKS Live Design, our first episode with Jason Poole. He'll be going over some of his latest workflows. And if you know Jason, he's going to bring the energy. So I'm super excited to see his energy, his passion, his creativity on that episode. And then we'll be back with SOLIDWORKS Live again in March. It'll be a bit of a refresher on where we are with our family of XStats. We rightfully spend so much time every year on what's new with SOLIDWORKS, but just like we talked about with Mark and Sal in this episode, our X apps continue to be developed. Let's talk more about where X Design is today, where X Shape is today. A lot of you might have X Design and or X Shape if you have the 3D Experience SOLIDWORKS offers, or if you have the Maker Edition. The Maker Edition, that's two parts of the Maker Edition, right? 3D Creator and 3D Sculptor, X Design and X Shape in those two roles respectively. So you definitely want to check that out, right? It's the future of how a lot of us will be working. If you're interested from that capacity, or if you have them today and you just want to learn from some of our best technical experts on how to best utilize those applications, you'll get a peek of that, and we'll highlight the entire breadth of several of our other X apps, like Mark mentioned, XMold, XDefine, with the help of superheroes. I'll leave it at that. Kind of taking a cue from Ryan, who utilized the Matey for his presentation. Again, edutainment, let's make things fun. So you'll be getting some superhero scenery during the next SOLIDWORKS Live episode. So once again, like, subscribe, tell all your friends. Thank you all so much. Thank you to all the Breakout presenters. Thank you to Manish Kumar for coming along. Thank you to Kramer, our production group, for putting on this show and all of our SOLIDWORKS Live episodes. Just cannot thank you all enough. And we'll see you next time.